You want to know what real power looks like? Picture this: a sea of expensive suits, every eye locked on the CEO about to sign away $5 billion, when out of nowhere, a janitor in a faded uniform stands up and stops everything cold. Yeah, that was me, Danielle Carter. And let me tell you, when I called out, "Don't sign that contract," even the air seemed to freeze, just for a second, long enough for everyone to realize this wasn't just some cleaning lady causing a scene. No, I was about to gamble everything for a truth nobody wanted to hear: that IT wasn't always like this. Once upon a time, I was a hotshot analyst at Goldman Sachs, juggling big numbers, big egos, and even bigger lies. But one wrong move, one refusal to play along with a fake report, and the whole system chewed me up and spat me out. Fast forward a few years. Here I was, scrubbing floors at Monroe Industries, keeping my head down, barely making enough to care for my daughter Ava, who needed more than just love to survive. She needed insulin, specialists, and a mom who wasn't afraid to fight when it mattered. That fight landed in my lap the night before the biggest deal in company history. I was working late, planning to steer clear of the execs burning midnight oil, when I overheard James Bennett, the CFO, cursing under his breath over a mess of documents. As I helped him pick up his scattered papers, I glimpsed something that made my stomach turn: a spreadsheet, cold and clinical, spelling out the fate of every low-level employee. Cleaning services, Chicago, 100% contract termination. That wasn't just my job. That was my entire team's lifeline, about to get axed the moment Andrew Monroe, the Golden Boy CEO, signed on the dotted line. I barely slept that night, staring at the peeling paint above my bed, Ava's insulin bottles catching the glow from my desk lamp, my mind replaying those cold numbers over and over. I'd lost everything once by staying silent. Could I really do it again? "Forgive me, Ava," I whispered, "but I have to try." The next morning, nerves jangling, I walked through the front doors with my head up for once, my hands clutching the evidence I'd snuck out. A printout of every employee about to be cut loose for someone else's profit. The boardroom was swarming. Executives, lawyers, cameras, even security eyeballing me as if they already knew I didn't belong. My heart nearly gave out when Bennett spotted me, his eyes sharp as razors, but I made it inside. The moment Andrew raised that fancy Mont Blanc pen, I snapped. I called out for him to stop. The whole room erupted, directors yelling, security moving in, everyone treating me like some crazed protester. But Andrew, to his credit, didn't have me thrown out. Instead, he told everyone to leave but me. That's when I saw it, the first flicker of doubt in his eyes. Maybe he sensed there was more at stake than another fat bonus. That I laid it all out. Tech Vision was overvalued by a mile, the numbers cooked, the profits smoke and mirrors, and the only way the books would ever balance was if thousands of people like me, got tossed aside. "You think you can build an empire by gutting the people who made it?" I asked, and for a second, I almost believed he might actually listen. Andrew didn't say much, just told me to bring every scrap of proof I had to his penthouse that night. I left the boardroom shaking, unsure if I'd made things better or signed my own pink slip. But I knew there was no turning back. That evening, in a world I'd never stepped into, marble floors, glass walls, a view of the city so high up it didn't feel real, I dumped the evidence on his desk and walked him through every dirty secret. Fake profits, hollow R&D, a scheme built on other people's misery. For the first time, Andrew looked truly rattled. But just as he started to question me, my phone exploded. Ava was sick, dangerously so. Her diabetes was out of control, and the sitter didn't know what to do. Andrew didn't hesitate. He drove me home, then straight to the hospital, where I watched helplessly as my little girl, my whole world, was whisked away by nurses. All the money in the world meant nothing at that moment. Andrew finally saw it for himself. Business decisions weren't just numbers on a page. They were life and death for people like us. While Ava fought through the night, Andrew sat with me, listening as I told him why I'd lost everything. I'd refused to rubber stamp a fraudulent merger at Goldman, and the old boys club buried me for it. I promised him I wouldn't let that happen again. Not to anyone else if I could help IT to be wide on. He'd made up his mind. He called an emergency board meeting, laid out every dirty trick Bennett and the chairman had pulled, every way they'd tried to bury the truth. I'll never forget the look on Bennett's face. All the smugness draining away as Andrew tossed proof after proof onto the table. But even then, power doesn't go down without a fight. Bennett and his cronies went straight for the jugular, threatening Ava, threatening me, even having me arrested for data theft. Yeah, I spent a night in jail, terrified, furious, but not broken. Andrew called in the best lawyer in town, dug even deeper, and made damn sure the world saw the truth. When the dust settled, the fraudsters were out, Andrew resigned, and Monroe Industries was left to clean up its own mess. I lost my job, but I walked out with something worth 1,000 corporate paychecks, my dignity, and a friend who believed in what was right. With nothing to lose, Andrew and I started over. Phoenix Capital. Just the two of us. At first, then more. Old friends. Good people who believed business could be about more than just the bottom line. Yeah, we got threats. Yeah, we struggled. But every time I looked at Ava's face or saw a family we'd saved from layoffs, I knew we were finally building something that mattered. 6 months later, our tiny office buzzed with new hope. Ava would run in after school, waving her latest math test, while Andrew and I mapped out plans to help honest businesses get the break they deserved. We didn't just rescue jobs, we gave people their futures back. And through it all, we became a family. Not because of paperwork or marriage vows, but because we fought for each other when it counted. Of course, the world doesn't change overnight. Monroe Industries had to face a reckoning. Bennett and the old guard left in disgrace, and the press called us fools for giving up power. But every day, as I watched my daughter thrive, as I felt Andrew's trust and support beside me, I knew we'd won something the boardroom could never be. So, if you ever wonder whether it's worth risking everything for what's right, I'm here to tell you, yes, it is. We're not superheroes, just regular people who decided enough was enough. If you were in my shoes, would you take that risk? Would you choose your conscience, even if it cost you everything? Drop your thoughts below. I want to hear your story. And if this one moved you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Who knows? Maybe you'll be the next to stand up when the world needs it most. You ever think you finally escaped the worst, only to realize life's just rolled out a new kind of storm? That was us. Phoenix Capital was alive, Ava was healthy, and for a while, it felt like all that hell with Monroe Industries was in the rearview. But if I've learned anything, it's that the people who built their world on other folks' pain never let go quietly. It started with the little things, prank calls in the middle of the night, strange cars parked outside our new office, emails that vanished before you could even open them. Andrew tried to brush it off, said maybe we were just being paranoid, but I could see the tension building in his jaw, that old habit of scanning every face twice. Then, one Friday evening, as I was packing up, Ava called me from home, whispering, "Mom, there's a man outside, staring at our window." My blood went cold. I called Andrew, who was still at the office with our head of operations, Lisa, the first employee who jumped ship from Monroe to join us. Without hesitation, he told Lisa to call security and raced to my apartment. We didn't call the cops, not right away. We knew how these games worked. No one ever left evidence, and the people behind the threats usually had friends in high places. Ava was fine, just scared, but I sat by her bed all night, clutching the old baseball bat Andrew had found in his garage. I thought about quitting, honestly. Thought about packing up and starting fresh in a place nobody could find us. But then I remembered that spreadsheet from months ago, the hundreds of names, the way it felt to be powerless. I knew I couldn't back down, not when so many people now depended on us. The next week, we put security on the building and encrypted every file. We held a staff meeting, Andrew and I standing shoulder to shoulder, telling the truth, that we were being targeted, but we wouldn't give up. That's when Lisa spoke up, voice shaking but eyes burning. If we let them scare us off, they win. And I didn't leave everything behind for that. Her courage gave the whole team a shot of adrenaline. It gave me hope, too, but hope only carries you so far. Late one night, Andrew got an anonymous email, a video file. In it, a masked figure stood in our empty office, holding Ava's school photo, her name written on a white card. My hand shook so hard I could barely dial the police. They took the threat seriously, finally, and assigned an officer to patrol the neighborhood. But the message was clear. This wasn't just about business anymore. They wanted us scared, humiliated, desperate enough to walk away. That was the moment Andrew snapped. He'd spent his life playing by the rules, believing the system would protect people who did the right thing. But now he saw it like I always had. The only way to win was to shine a spotlight so bright that even the cockroaches couldn't hide. Andrew called a press conference the very next morning. We invited every journalist who'd ever sniffed around the Monroe scandal. He stood there, under the harsh lights, holding up the evidence of intimidation, the threats, even the video. This is what happens, he told the cameras, when you threaten power with honesty. He called out Bennett and the old Monroe board by name, demanding a full criminal investigation. You could feel the shift in the air. Suddenly, it wasn't just us against the world. Employees from all over started coming forward, people who'd been fired, silenced, threatened, not just from Monroe, but from other companies too. Lisa was right. When you refuse to back down, you become a beacon for everyone who ever dreamed of justice. But that wasn't the end. A week later, we got our biggest twist yet, a letter, handwritten, signed only a friend. Inside were internal documents from Bennett's private server, leaked by an anonymous whistleblower still working at Monroe. The files detailed years of fraud, not just at TechVision, but in dozens of shell companies, political donations, and offshore accounts. This was bigger than we'd ever imagined. Andrew and I spent 3 sleepless nights poring over those documents, working with federal investigators, journalists, anyone who'd listen. The evidence rocked the city. Suddenly, the headlines were about corruption, criminal charges, even rumors of international money laundering. Bennett disappeared, vanished off the grid. The chairman and several directors were arrested. Monroe Industries stock tanked, but for once, nobody cared about the money. Meanwhile, Phoenix Capital boomed, not because people pitted us, but because we'd become the company that stood up when nobody else dared. Clients wanted in. Young analysts, burned out from the old game, started applying in droves, eager for a place where integrity wasn't just a slogan taped to a breakroom wall. For the first time in my life, I saw what real change looked like. And yet, every victory carried a cost. We lost sleep. We worried every day about Ava's safety. Some nights, I'd lie awake and wonder if it was fair to drag my daughter through all this, if maybe we'd been selfish, dreaming of justice in a world that seemed hell-bent on destroying it. Andrew felt it too. He hid it well, but sometimes, late at night, I'd see him gazing at our office wall, jaw clenched, shoulders tense, as if he was still waiting for the next blow point. One evening, after a long day, we sat on the office rooftop, watching the city lights. Lisa joined us, along with a few others who'd been with us since the start. We talked about everything from silly stories to the hard questions. Could one little company really change the world? Would the next generation have it any easier? Was it enough to be honest if the world kept rewarding the crooks? Andrew smiled, tired but hopeful. Maybe we can't fix everything, he said, but we can make it harder for the wrong people to win. We can build something that lasts, something Ava and her friends can be proud of. Even if that's all we ever accomplish, maybe that's enough. I looked around at our scrappy team, at Ava's drawing still taped above my desk, and realized he was right. We might never change the whole world, but we changed ours. And that mattered. The final twist? A year after that awful night, I got a letter from a lawyer. Turns out, the whistleblower, the friend, had named me and Andrew as beneficiaries in his will. He didn't have much, just a tiny house and some savings. But in his letter, he wrote, "You gave me the courage to do what was right. Maybe now I can rest easy." I cried, not for the money, but for the hope that one brave act could ripple out farther than we'd ever know. So, here we are, Phoenix Capital, still fighting, still standing, Ava growing up fearless, Andrew beside me, our team growing bolder every day. We're not safe, not really, but we're stronger than we've ever been. And we know now, doing the right thing is always dangerous, but it's never, ever pointless. Now let me ask you, honestly, if you saw corruption in your workplace, would you risk your comfort, your career, maybe even your family's safety to stand up to it? Or would you look away, hoping someone else would fight the fight? Tell us below. Your answer might be the spark someone else needs. If our story moved you, like, share, and subscribe. The world's never changed by silence. It's changed by ordinary people willing to make a little noise.